Hey guys, this is Brian with River City Outdoors 85. I'm coming to you with Catfish Rods Part 3. This will be the final video in this portion of my catfishing equipment series. In Part 1 we talked about fishing rods in general, in terms of things like power and action and length and how they affect fishing rods in general. And then we talked about catfish rod specific things. What kind of criteria that you're looking for with catfish rods, what kind of components and materials and so forth. And then in the part 2 video that I dropped recently, we talked about, I had broken down lists of the catfish rods that are currently out there. Well, it was a sample rather of catfish rods that are currently out there on the market for sale, prices, specifications, whether or not they were a good value for the money and so forth. The three tiers I broke those down into were tier 3, which was the cheapest, most budget friendly rods, and then tier 2 was really good quality rods that were at a mid price range, and then tier 1 was the most expensive rods. If you want to check those two videos out, the full length videos are on my YouTube and TikTok pages at River City Outdoors 85, and I've got some shorter videos relating to the same things that I posted on Instagram as well, at the same handle name, River City Outdoors 85. So I'm gonna turn the camera around for you here in just a second. We're gonna get started on this part 3 video. So what I got today, as I mentioned in my last video, is I'm going to go over with you guys the catfish rods that I currently have, what I'm currently using, length, specifications, and so forth, and kind of why I'm using them, what I like about them, why I've decided to run these rods currently, and then I'm also going to show you the reels that I'm running on each of these types of rods as well. So we're going to turn the camera around and get to this. Okay, so as you can see, I've got 5 rods here on the table that are representative of what I'm currently running as far as for use for catfishing, and the corresponding reels as well. So I'll give you guys a look for the whole length of the rods, probably a few times during this video. Okay, so we're going to start. So basically, as I've explained before, I kind of believe in the, a specific tool for a specific job approach rather than the one-size-fits-all approach. Now, when it comes to catfish rods, there's nothing wrong with the one-size-fits-all approach. And if you're trying to take that approach, then a medium power rod that is either moderate fast to extra fast action, that's got a lure rating up to at least 10 ounces, 12 if you can find one, that'll pretty well do it all for you. So you can do the one-size-fits-all approach, but I fish in a bunch of different places under a bunch of different conditions, and I target a bunch of different sized fish, so I kind of have specific tools for specific jobs. So where we're going to start at is, as you can see here, this rod, the first one, is an Ugly Stick GX2. Okay, all of these rods, as you can see based on the reels that I have laid on the table, all of these rods are spinning rods. I much prefer spinning rods over casting rods or spin cast rods, for reasons that I've explained in my video pertaining to reels for catfishing. But long story short, with spinning reels, you get, in my opinion, you get a lot more value for the money. You can get really good reels that are capable of catching anything you can conjure up for less money, that also have better specs, more line capacity, more drag capacity, higher gear ratios or the same gear ratios in comparison to bait casters, and they're lower maintenance in regard to, you don't have to adjust these reels all the time. You don't have to worry about backlashes and things like that. Occasionally, especially if you've got too much line on your spool, or if it's a real windy day, you might see some wind knots. But those are a lot more manageable than a big backlash. So that's what I prefer. On top of that, I personally feel like I get better casting distance and casting accuracy with spinning rods and reels than I do with bait casters. I've had bait casters. I used to use them. I switched over to spinning reels entirely because I like them a lot more. So now that we've gone over what types of rods we have, we're gonna get to it. So basically, I have 3 classes of catfish rod. Okay, I break them down into light duty, which is for, you know, fish up to 10 pounds with the occasional, you know, maybe 15 to 20 pound fish. And then medium duty, where I'm primarily targeting, you know, 10 to 50 pound fish. And then heavy duty, where, you know, I'm targeting, you know, any size fish, you know, up to, you know, in excess of 100 pounds. And then extra heavy duty, those are rods that I'm using for the big rivers, like the Missouri River or the Mississippi River. So we're going to start with the light duty rods, and that's what we have here. As I said, we started with the Ugly Stick GX2. As you can see from the specifications, again, falsely listed as action medium. That's medium power. This is a moderate fast action. It's got a line rating of 6 to 15 pounds. I can't remember because it doesn't list what the lure weight rating is, but I can assure you guys the maximum sinkers size that I use for these medium GX2s is 1 ounces. And everywhere I use these rods, I can get by with, you know, a half an ounce, 3/4 of an ounce to an ounce, and I don't have any issues throwing a 1 ounce sinker with bait and everything with these rods. It's a 7-foot blank. It's a solid 1-piece blank. Now, as I described before, originally on GX2s, the tip section between the rod tip and the next eye down is always clear fiberglass, and it makes it difficult to see. So what I've done is a personal modification to this rod where I sanded and masked and painted so that I've got a section of rod that's white, so that during the daytime, or if I'm fishing with lanterns, I can see that really well, so I can, you know, keep an eye on my rod tip. And then the paint that I used is also glow in the dark, so, you know, in the event I'm in a low light condition or something, I can always see that rod tip because it'll glow in the dark. All 5 of these rods are solid 1-piece blanks, because as I've explained, that's what I prefer. Well, sorry about the background noise that just kicked in. I wasn't expecting that. I decided to do this outside because it's easier to get my rods outside than it is to pack them all upstairs, because my basement and garage are all one unit. Anyway, so these are my light duty rods. As I said, I use them for, you know, up to 10 pound fish with the occasional maybe 15 or 20 pound fish. These rods will handle that size of catfish, no problem. What I very much like about these rods being medium power is, as you can see, compared to the other rods, the blank is, you know, thinner. The tip is definitely thinner, as you can see, in comparison to the tips on the other rods. This is a good limber rod. It casts extremely well. It's very sensitive, picks up on light bites on smaller fish, and it is a great rod for light duty catfishing. Then we go to the medium duty. As I spoke to before, this is a whisker seeker hog seeker, and as you can see, it's a 7-foot 6-inch single piece. It's medium heavy, fast action. It's got a line rating of 10 to 50 pounds and a 2 to 12 ounce lure weight rating, and it's solid S-class blank. Okay, and as you can see, it's got the really cool black and green camo EVA handle. It's got a graphite reel seat still, but it's got double locking nuts. So you have the primary lock nut and then you have the jam nut behind it. Okay, and It is black and green, and as you see, a lot of these rods are green. Green's my favorite color. I really like that fluorescent green color. It's got the black wraps, so the color does break up. I mean, this is a fluorescent color, so it does show up in the black light. The color does break up, you know, in between the wraps, but the rod's still highly visible. This is my medium duty catfish rods, okay? So, you know, 10 to 50 pound fish, I wouldn't have an issue with it. You know, if you occasionally hooked up with something in the 60 to 75 pound range, I believe this rod would handle it. But I probably wouldn't put this rod up against a 100 pound blue cat. Primary reason, you know, as I've stated before, graphite reel seats just, they don't stay locked in as tight. Now, these are better with the double lock nuts, no doubt, as far as staying tight. And on this one, graphite reel seat, because of that larger nut up on top with a lot more bearing surface on the threads and stuff, this is one of the better designs along with this, as far as keeping it real nice and tight. But because the reel seats are graphite, you know, reel seats do take a lot of pressure. You know, reels get a lot of pressure put on them, especially when you turn and drag down to put a stop on a fish or something. And, you know, reel seats that are of weaker material, you know, they can crack, they can flex, break, bow, bend, you know, you name it. So, you know, you got to keep in mind the capabilities of your equipment. You know, I'm not saying this rod couldn't catch a 100 pound fish one time, but it's not a rod that I would be trying to catch a 100 pound fish with over and over and over again because of the weaker link in the chain. Now, for the purpose I'm using this rod for, I expect these rods will last a long time and do a great job. So, but it, you know, it is still what I consider a medium duty rod. I'm using these rods in places where I know I could catch, you know, a 50 plus pound fish, but the majority of my fish are going to be, you know, down, you know, say 10 to 40 pounds. Great rods though. You know, all of these rods on this table though they're great. They really are. For the intended purpose that I have them for, they're perfect. The weights on all these rods are great. They're manageable, you know, all that sort of thing. Then we're going to get to, so I've got essentially two rods in the heavy duty class. The first being the white original Big Cat Fevers, okay? And then the second, and as you can see, that's a medium heavy. It's got a 10 to 50 pound line rating and a 1 to 10 ounce lure weight rating, okay? And it's a fast action, as is the medium heavy Hellcat sitting next to it. Now, the Hellcat's got the same 10 to 50 pound line rating, but it's got a 1 to 8 ounce lure rating. And it's also fast action. The reason behind the slightly lower lure rating is because it is, as you can see, all the way down the blank, because it is a S-glass and carbon composite blank, it is a little bit lighter weight. So it's a little more flexible. It's still a medium power rod, but it does have a little more flex to it. It does have maybe slightly less backbone, but it's got plenty of backbone to handle a heavy fish. A Hellcat will handle pretty much anything. They put the slightly lower line rating on this rod because it is a spinning rod and because it is not the standard the standard, you know, solid S-glass blank like the Big Cat Fever. As you can see, both of these rods have the butts on them. You know, now the Hellcat rod's got the gimbal, just like the new Hellcat Revenge rods. The Big Cat Fever's got the standard butt on it. They both have an X-Wrap, you know, EVA type handle. They both have the solid metal reel seats with the double locking nuts. Very good quality reel seats. I mean, it's top notch. And as you can see, the Hellcat rod's got the Hellcat logo on the reel seat and the cutout, so you can see the rod blank running all the way through. Adds a little bit to the aesthetics of the rod. You know, a good sizable grip portion in the top and in the bottom portion of the grips. You know, really good quality, and all these rods have good quality, solid one-piece stainless steel guides. You know, heavy duty wrapping on the line guides, heavy duty epoxy coating, so you ain't got to worry about them separating. The Big Cat Fever rod has one less eye overall than the Hellcat rod. The Hellcat rod was meant to be an advancement over the Big Cat Fever rods. The Big Cat Fever rods were the first rods that Catch the Fever marketed for catfishing. Excuse me. So, as I described, these two are my heavy duty class rods. I use them, you know, for anything. You know, I both these rods can handle fish in excess of 100 pounds with no problem. The reason that I have two, you know, you could say, well, you could just run Big Cat Fevers, or you could just run Hellcats, and you're right. But the Hellcats, because they are a S-glass and composite rod instead of just a solid S-glass rod, the carbon helps to lighten up that rod blank. Okay, so it's a lighter weight rod. It's a bit more flexible. It's a bit more, you know, handy, if you will. And the lighter weight, you know, makes them easier to transport. So for times when I'm catfishing from the kayak, okay, and I haven't made a video showing you guys, you know, any details about my kayak and what I'm running. I will be doing some kayak catfishing dedicated videos, and I will be, you know, doing an overview of my kayak, what I'm running and why and all that. But for kayak catfishing, these lighter weight Hellcat rods are perfect. If you and I've got them made it, and I'll show you the reels that I have them mated up with, because the reels are perfect for these rods. So, so I got the Hellcats for two main reasons. One is, you know, when you're kayaking, you can only haul so much gear. Your kayak's got a load bearing rating on it, so you know you don't want to overpack your kayak. So reducing weight, you know, on every part of your gear is something you want to keep in mind when you're kayaking, especially if you're going to spend a long time on the river, or in a creek, or, you know, on a small lake, or whatever it is. So running the lighter weight rods on the kayak is perfect. Okay. The other thing with the Hellcats too is there are some places I fish where you got to pack absolutely minimally, because you got to walk down the side of tall river levees to get down to some place to fish. You know, so you got to be minimalist. So, you know, the reduced rod weight, getting into some places to bank fish, is a must. So that's why I have, you know, now for the places that I don't have a hard time getting to, you know, my bank fishing spots, or fishing off a dock or something where I don't have a hard time and I'm expecting to catch something big, then the Big Cat Fever, you know, is probably going to be my go-to. But if I'm going to fish someplace that's, you know, out in the middle of nowhere that's hard to get to, or if I'm fishing on my kayaks, the Hellcat with the lighter weight blank is going to be my go-to. You know, and those are going to be for the situations where, you know, I know that I could run into, you know, a fish over 50 pounds. And there's definitely places that I fish where I could definitely run into a fish over 50 pounds, and have it in places and times. So, you know, to go back to where we are so far, light duty rods, nice and flexible, got, you know, plenty of backbone for the job, but still really sensitive for, you know, fish up to 10 pounds, maybe slightly larger. You know, those are my keeping class fish, the fish that I keep and eat. Because my general rule with keeping catfish is I keep anything from 1.5 pounds to 15 pounds, and that's it. And anything that's smaller, I turn loose because they're not worth filleting out size-wise, and then anything that's larger, I return back to the water. I like to catch the bigger fish, you know, get weights and measures, and get good pictures and hopefully good video, and you know, going forward at least, and then, you know, return them back to the water safely, because your big fish are producing more eggs, and more eggs means more catfish for future fishermen down the road. So, and then, you know, Then we get to, you know, again, overview the medium duty rods, you know, 10 to 50 pound fish. Often, like when I go down to Warsaw, fish off the docks below Truman Dam, you could run into a fish up to 60 to 70 pounds in there, but that's going to be about the biggest fish you're going to run into. On average, your big fish are going to run, you know, 10 to 50 pounds. And a rod like this is, you know, perfect for that. I don't like to go constantly overgunned, but I definitely don't like to be undergunned either. So, you know, that's how I do it. And of course, to be entirely honest, you know, doing it that way, you know, affords me the ability to have more variety in my fishing rod collection, which I do enjoy. I like to take different stuff out at different times, you know, and try new things and all that. So having more of a rod variety also suits my needs and my wants when it comes to that as well. I like every rod on this table a lot for you know, the given reasons. Now we're going to get to the extra heavy duty rods. And as I stated, these, you know, we went from medium with the GX2 to medium heavy with the medium duty rod to the bigger, you know, heavier built medium heavy rods for heavy duty fishing. Now we are at heavy power rods. Okay. This is, and I've got another video on these. This is one of the new Catch the Fever Hellcat Revenge rods. Okay. And this one, as I just showed you, is 7 foot 6 inches long. It's got a line rating of 20 to 60 pounds. It's got a 2 to 16 ounce lure rating, and it is heavy power, fast action. Okay. This is the newest of the Catch the Fever rods on the market. I only have one of them in heavy and one of them in medium heavy. I've got 2 other normal Hellcats like this one in heavy, and I've got 2 of these medium heavy Hellcats and 1 of the medium heavy Hellcat Revenge rods. So what I did was I incorporated, I had 2 Hellcats in medium heavy and 2 of them in heavy. I incorporated 1 Hellcat Revenge in each of those power settings in with the other Hellcat rods is what I did. So, and as you can see, as I stated before, this one's got a gimbal, but it's also got the new style rubber silicone mixture textured handle, that's got a great, fantastic grip. A slightly different looking reel seat in that when they did the cutout on it, they did the Catch the Fever logo rather than just standard lightning cuts. You know, still got the heavy double lock nuts, and you can see, you know, you got metal accents there and metal accents here. Really, really awesome looking rod. And on these rods, they found some kind of epoxy coating that they could apply that would not mess with the UV reactivity of that green paint. So they did that as well. A total advancement over the Hellcat and a big time advancement over the Big Cat Fever. All, not to say that the Big Cat Fever is still not a great rod, because it is. The Hellcat is an advancement over that, and the Hellcat Revenge is the next step up. So I'm not looking for targeting, you know, a different weight class fish with the extra heavy duty rods. You know, all 3 of those rods that go, you know, that's when I'm targeting fish that, you know, 50 to over 100 pounds. Okay. The reason that I have heavy rods is because when I'm fishing a big river with heavy current like the Missouri or the Mississippi, you know, or if I'm fishing a river that's up and the current's heavy, like if I'm fishing the Osage River here, you know, just outside of Jeff City, and that river's up and it's churning a lot of current, then I'm going to need heavier sinkers to hold my bait to the bottom. Okay. And that's where a heavy power rod comes in, because you can see the difference. You got, you know, 10 ounce capabilities here, 8 ounces here, and up to 16 ounces. That's a full pound of sinker. Okay. In the Missouri River, I don't know of any place that you can get by with under 8 ounces of sinker. Okay, unless you're fishing like a tributary creek in the mouth, you might get by with 8 ounces or less than 8 ounces. You might get by with more like 3 or 4 or even 2, depending on the current. But in the main parts of the Missouri or the Mississippi, you need 8 ounces minimum to hold the bottom. and you need a rod that can handle throwing those kinds of sinkers, and that's where your heavy power comes in. Okay, as I've explained before, you know, medium power is good for smaller to up to occasionally medium-sized fish because it's more flexible, more sensitive, but still got, you know, a decent amount of backbone. Then you get into medium heavy power rods like these, where, you know, they're a little less flexible, they got a little more backbone, and they got higher capabilities as far as line and lure ratings, so they can throw heavier sinkers. And then you get into your heaviest power settings where you're throwing the heaviest sinkers. Now, Catch the Fever makes all their catfish rods from at least medium up to extra heavy. Now, the difference between a heavy and an extra heavy is the extra heavy throws 4 to 20 ounce leads. Okay, I don't need at least not to, in my opinion, I don't need anything as heavy as a 20 ounce sinker. You know, 16s, 8 to 16s will get me by pretty much anywhere I'm fishing. So again, all of my fishing equipment, rods included, are tailored to the environments that I'm fishing in. You know, like my light duty rods, okay, that's for when I'm fishing creeks where I'm not going to catch I'm not expecting to catch a fish over 10 pounds. Most of the creeks I fish, most of the fish we're catching, you know, 3 to 7 pounds. Okay. And then, you know, I use these rods for, you know, stocked catfish ponds, smaller lakes that only have channel cat stocked in them. You know, places where, you know, your average fish is a keeping size fish, up to 15 pounds and under. And that's where, you know, a medium power light duty rod, you know, that's where they're the best for me. Because with the smaller fish, the higher sensitivity of the rod helps to, you know, get those bites, helps you to see that you're getting a bite, all that stuff. You know, those details are important. You know, if you don't know you're getting a bite, you can't catch fish, right? I mean, I guess that's pretty self-explanatory, but so, you know, that's what I use the light duty rods for. And the medium duty rods, like I kind of already gave an explanation for, you know, I fish some places where, you know, I'm not expecting to run into anything for the most part above 50 pounds, and, you know, be 60, 70 pounds maximum would be the biggest fish I would see in some of those places. And, you know, a really good rod for that job is this Whisker Seeker Hog Seeker. And this rod, as I explained on my previous part 2 video, is one of the best values in a catfish rod that still has a graphite reel seat, because it does have a high quality graphite reel seat, but it is a solid S-glass blank, and it's, you know, it's premium material. It's a premium rod at a not so premium price, because they did not go a step further and go to an all metal reel seat. But in a $60 rod class, that's okay. And that's going one step further with that. This is, in my opinion, the best $60 catfish rod on the market. I don't think that it's a truly better rod than the Rip and Lips Super Cat Legacy rods, because they're both basically the same rod. But for me, this is the best $60 catfish rod on the market, because I can walk into a few places here in Missouri and buy this rod directly from the store. One of those places, I'll give a shout out to Adam and the guys at Tombstone Tackle in Columbia. They sell Whisker Seeker products, and I bought all of my Whisker Seeker rods from them. And also, by the way, if you are in the Columbia area or anywhere close to Columbia, and you haven't shopped at Tombstone Tackle, if you're looking to buy a rod reel combo, whether it's a combo that's already put together or buy the rod and reel separately, he will give you a good discount when buying combos from him. So like when I bought combos from him, he gave me these rods for $50 at $10 off, and he also gave me some of the price off on the reels as well. So it came in at a really good deal on those rods. That's the only reason I own these rods, because I wasn't originally going to buy them because I was going to have to pay, you know, $15 to $25 shipping on them. And although I was interested in them, you know, again, that makes them a $75 to an $85 rod. And with a graphite reel seat, still, it wasn't something I was interested in because it doesn't meet my cutoff for, you know, for features versus price. But being able to walk into Tombstone in Columbia, now there is a bait and tackle shop in Ashland, Missouri also, which is about 10 or 12 minutes from here, that also carries these rods. So if you can walk into someplace and buy one of these, and Whisker Seeker's becoming very popular, this is, if you're looking for a rod in the $60 and under price category, this is one of the best ones you can buy if you can get them without paying the shipping, okay? Now, as I stated before, the GX2 rods, Ugly Stick GX2s, man, you can walk in anywhere and buy one of these, okay? Walmart, farm and home stores, Academy, everywhere, probably just about everywhere that sells catfish or sells fishing rods in general sells a GX2. Because again, this is not a, you know, catfish rod dedicated, you know, and marketed as such. The Big Cat Fever rods, okay? This is the old school Big Cat Fever, okay? The original. I've got 3 of these, and I won't be getting any more. They discontinued this particular Big Cat Fever in favor of the new Zachary series rods. I don't have a problem with that because they did do an upgrade with them, but I do love these rods, thus I won't be getting rid of them. The Hellcats, the original Hellcat, right now, you know, they started out at more money, but right now they're $95 a piece, and that is a heck of a buy for this quality of rod. I mean, these are fantastic rods. They're light in the hand. They cast wonderfully. They're awesome. And then I have not yet fished because I recently just got the Hellcat Revenge rod. I'm going to be putting it to work here very soon, and I can't wait. For a heavy power rod, guys, this rod's got a fantastic feel to it, and I think this is going to be fantastic, right up there, you know, on the level of the Hellcat and probably above the level of the Hellcat in terms of overall quality and styling and everything. I mean, I don't know if you guys can see that. Look at the texturing on that handle. That handle is awesome. It's made to mimic, you know, when you have like GPS maps on your fish finders and stuff, the lake layouts look like that, and that's kind of the reason that they went with that pattern. But man, that pattern has got so much grip to it. It's awesome. And I don't have a problem with the grip on any of these rods, by the way. EVA is fantastic. This is, you know, just standard EVA, but it's nice and grippy. And when it gets wet, it does not get, you know, slick and, you know, slide out of your hands real bad and stuff like that. And again, that stuff's all easy to keep clean. You can wash it right off, you know, with a garden hose, and it doesn't absorb the smell from, you know, catfish slime or bait or any of that stuff. So it's great. So these are the rods I'm using. Okay, the Ugly Stick GX2 for light duty fishing, the Whisker Seeker Hog Seeker for medium duty fishing, the Big Cat Fevers and the original Hellcats in medium heavy for heavy duty fishing, and then the heavy Hellcats and Hellcat Revenge for heavy duty fishing. Okay, or really extra heavy duty fishing, sorry. That's what I'm currently running. And to be honest with you, where I'm at with this at this point, that's probably not subject to change, because I do love these rods and I love the way they perform. The only one I haven't fished with yet at this point is the Hellcat Revenge, but I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be fantastic. All of these rods are fantastic for the jobs that I do with them. And guys, I catfish, you know, all the time. And sometimes during the dead of the winter time too, because, you know, it's easy to target big blues, especially during the winter time when they're holed up in the deeper, you know, places around bridges, dams, you know, holes in the river, things like that. So I'm going to get over here to this side of the table, and I'm going to give you guys the rundown on these reels, okay? So we're going to start down here on the end. The reels that I'm running on the light duty catfish rods for the GX2s. This is the Shimano Sienna. 4,000. Okay, have a look all the way around it. As you can see, the color matches really well with the GX2 because it's black and red. I run 10-pound Berkley big game on these, and these have a capacity for 210 yards of that stuff. These little reels, it's a 4,000, but it makes 17 pounds of drag, and it's very smooth, very good reel. And for the money, this is one of the best spinning reels you can buy. Because these reels, you can literally walk into Walmart and buy this reel, this exact reel right here, 30 bucks. Excellent value. I mean, seriously, one of the best values there is in spinning reels. If you're not looking for, a big setup, man, go and get you one. They're super smooth. They got an excellent drag. They cast wonderfully. They got that real heavy lip, or that real heavy kind of chamfer on the lip of that spool to help. It's a propulsion management system to help with casting and stuff. As you can see, it's a textured spool. It's braid ready. You can run braid on these things. You can run mono, flawlessly. Fantastic little reels, especially for the money. Then when I'm running on the Whisker Seeker Hog Seeker for the medium duty fishing, this is the original Daiwa BG in the 5,000 series. Okay, they got good big heavy duty T handle for fighting. It's got the large digigears in it. It's got the automatic tournament drag system, which is carbon fiber based. They're braid ready. You can run braid or mono on this. It's got excellent line capacity. We'll go over that. Like 20 pounds, it'll hold 280 yards of it. Okay, really good stuff. And that's what I run on this reel, by the way. It's 20 pounds on medium on the light duty stuff. I'm running 10-pound line. On the medium, I'm running 20-pound line. Okay, then when we get up into here, okay, on the big cat fevers, I am running Penn Battle 3 6000s. Okay, Penn Battle 3. Where is so I can show you. Oops. There we go. 6,000, as you see. This reel will hold 210 yards of 25-pound mono, which is what's on it right now. That is Berkley Big Game Solar Collector Green monofilament. It's a slightly larger, heavier duty reel than the Daiwa BG. You can see they're close in size though. Daiwas and Penns are not identical in size. Okay, so in reality, so Penn Battles and Penn Fierce reels are the same size. Okay, exactly the same size. They just have different features, and also the Battles are black and gold and the Fierces are black and red, like this reel. Okay. So the Battles and the Fierces are the same size. In a Daiwa, a 5,000 sits between a 5,000 Penn and a 6,000 Penn in size. So the 5,000 Daiwa is a little larger than a 5,000 Penn, but just a hair smaller than a 6,000 Penn. But it's still about perfectly sized for the rods that I'm putting them on. Okay, I don't go over 6,000 on Catfish rods. I don't have a Catfish rod here that's longer than 7.5 foot. The Hellcat Revenge, the Big Cat Fevers, and the Hog Seeker rods are all 7.5 feet long. The Ugly Stick GX2 is the shortest of them at 7 feet long. Okay, so if you run a reel that's too big on your rod, it makes the rod really butt heavy, and it makes it cumbersome and more difficult to cast well. So having appropriately sized reels for the rod is the way to go. Now, if I was running a larger rod, up to maybe 9 feet, I would probably still run a 6,000. You could get by with an 8,000 on an 8-foot or a 9-foot rod, though. But if I were running a rod up around, say, 10 foot to 11, 12 foot long, then I would definitely run an 8,000 size reel. But because of the size of the rods that I'm running and the weight class that they're in and stuff, you know, I'm pretty selective on the reels that I've got, and I'm not running currently anything over a 6,000. So 4,000s on my small one, on my smallest ones, and then, you know, 6,000s and 5,000s on the rest. Now the reason this is a 5,000 is because it's close to a 6,000 in size. Okay. The next reel on the list is the new style, the newer style Daiwa BG. This is the BG MQ. Now they still make the original BG, but they're also making the MQ. And as I explained on a video, when the newest one of these arrived for the Hellcat Revenge in the medium heavy, MQ stands for monocoque. Monocoque essentially means that it is a unibody. It's a, you know, instead of having a, like this reel for instance, where you have a side plate that mounts to your body, and the same thing on this reel, and the same thing on that reel, okay, and on the next, on that one there. It doesn't use a side plate because it's like a unibody type design. Now this is a 6,000 size, but it is a little closer to like a pin 5,000. Okay. So what the unibody design affords you, if you look, this ring here, you see how large that ring is? That is the size of the main gear in this reel. That is a monster main gear. Okay. So what the unibody does for you is the body doesn't flex near as much, and you also have room to put bigger gears in it and stuff. So this reel actually is tougher than this larger BG because of the design. Now, this is a, you know, a 6,000, but all of the BG MQ, all the Daiwa MQ reels period, because the BG isn't the only model that they run in an MQ style. All of the MQ reels are smaller than their predecessors in terms of size. Like this is a 6,000, this is a 5,000, this is a larger reel than this. It allows you to downsize it, make that reel stiffer and tougher. But as you can see, this reel is still larger, obviously, in pretty much every direction than this 4,000. This is more like a 5,000 size reel. It's, you know, it's still got the large fighting T-handle on it, good size, real seat stem, big gears, everything. What these go on is the medium heavy Hellcats. Okay. As I explained already, that medium heavy Hellcat is a lighter weight blank than like the medium heavy Big Cat Fever, or that medium heavy Whisker Seeker for that matter. It's a lighter blank because of the carbon in it. So since I'm using those primarily for hard to get to places and for kayaking, having this smaller statured reel on this rod while still having heavy duty capabilities in both the rod and the reel is fantastic. Because again, weight reduction. I'm not sacrificing anything in terms of the overall performance of the reel or the rod, but I am getting an advantage in weight reduction. Okay, these are fantastic reels. I've got two other ones that I have used quite a bit, and I love it. Line capacity, as you can see, Daiwas always have pretty deep spools. As you can see, like the spool on that battle, the center section of that spool compared to the outside of the spool, you can see in comparison, these spools on Daiwas, the same thing over here, are really deep. So you get added line capacity with Daiwas and spinning reels in the first place. I love pins and I love Daiwas. I do like Shimano's, but as I explained before, I don't buy the Shimano's and the real big reels because they get really expensive really fast. You get a lot of value in saltwater grade, larger spinning reels with pins and Daiwas. And that's why I run them. Great reels, really good value. Excuse me. So, on this reel, if you want to run braid, you can get, what is it, 220, let me see. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it says it right on the reel, okay? Okay, braid. you can get 300 meters of 30-pound braid on this sucker. Okay, if you go to 40-pound braid, it's, oh, I did some calculations on it. I can't remember what it is. It's this reel's really rated for 30 to 40 pound braid. Now you can fish 50-pound braid on one of these, without any problem. You're gonna get something like 170 yards when you go to 50-pound braid on this reel. And I want to say that on 40-pound braid you're getting something like 220 yards, if I recall correctly, or something like that. But so, I mean, it's got really good line capacity. And of course, when you go with braid, it's smaller diameter, like I've explained in previous videos. So you're getting more of larger pound test line by going to braid. Now, when it comes to monofilament, after doing the math, there are calculators for fishing line capacity for reels, by the way. You take what the reel specs are and you put it in the calculator, and it'll tell you, and then you put what kind of line you want to use, and then the calculator will spit you out a number and tell you what your capacity for that line is. So if I were going to run 25-pound mono on this reel, like I'm doing on this reel, my line capacity would be just south of 170 yards. Now, for catfishing, it's not saltwater fishing. Catfish don't take humongous runs like some of the saltwater fish, like sailfish and stuff, do. So, you can get by with 100 yards of line. Honestly, you can. It's better to have, closer to 125 to 150 yards of line, but you can get by with 100 yards of line. So if you wanted to fish 25-pound mono on this reel, wouldn't be a problem. You'd be up in, just like I said, just south of 170 yards of 25-pound mono on this reel. On 20-pound mono, it was going to be something like 210 or 15 yards on 20-pound mono. So about the same 20-pound capacity as this reel has for 25-pound capacity. But, like I say, fishing braid, 30-pound braid, you got, like 300 yards worth or 300 meters worth of capacity on 30-pound braid. If you go up to 40-pound, then you're just a touch over 200 yards. And like I said, if you wanted to run 50-pound braid on here, which you could again, you could get, I think it was something like 160 yards of 50-pound braid on this thing. Anyway, the next reel, this is what I'm running for the heavy duty rods. Okay, all the heavy power, or the extra heavy duty rods, I'm sorry. So all the heavy power rods that I'm fishing like the Missouri and Mississippi with, these are the Penn Battle 4s. Okay, so Penn Battle 4 6000. Okay, this is an upgrade over the Battle 3s in a few ways. Still running the same CNC gear system as the Battle 3, which is excellent, by the way. On the larger size Battle Series reels, they're all brass gears. On the smaller battles, they're brass main gear, and then the smaller gear, like your pinion gear, is machined aluminum. On the larger Battle reels, your main gear and your pinion gear are all solid brass. Okay, which is top notch for fishing reels. And CNC machine brass, so you get really good on all these pins and Daiwas. The way their gears are cut, made, and designed, really awesome gear mesh. So real good tight fitting gears, no slippage, all that sort of thing. It's really tough. You can see there is a difference, like the lightning cuts they did on the Battle 4 compared to the Battle 3. It kind of kept the same basic color, type and profile and so forth. The big reel seat stem, the heavy all metal body and side plate, still a side plate design. You got large gears inside, heavy duty stuff, heavy, and both of the battles, just like the Daiwas, they all have a heavy duty rotor shaft, heavy duty graphite, real heavy duty graphite rotor, big bale wire, heavy heavy duty bail wires and stuff. You know, these are heavy duty saltwater class reels, and they're all braid ready. You got the texturing and the band to help keep your knots from slipping on all these. I run braid on these, okay? 65-pound Daiwa J braid. It's the same diameter as, and this, by the way, the Battle 4, the thing that is identical between the Battle 4 and the Battle 3, spool size is the same, okay? There are some parts on both of these reels that are interchangeable. And the spools are one of them. The spool size is the same. So you can run up to 210 yards of 25-pound mono, but you're getting over 300 yards of 65-pound braid on this reel. And I'm running that 65-pound braid because I'm running, you know, at anything from 8-ounce to 16-ounce lead on these heavy power rods. So I want that heavier line. I gotta worry about line snapping when I'm slinging heavy sinkers. And you know, this is my setup for essentially the heaviest class fish, you know, big water, heavy current, all that stuff. I'm running braid on these reels, and you know, a lot of heavy braid. I'm still running mono leaders though. I always run monofilament leaders, whether I'm running braid or not, okay? Because of mono, as I've explained before, monofilament leaders have higher abrasion resistance, and when it comes to, you know, things on the bottom that can mess up your line, and catfish mouths that can mess up your line and stuff, having that mono is just far better. So you know, that pretty much breaks it down for you guys. This is what as I said, this is what I'm currently running in terms of the rods and the reels. So I'm running the Ugly Stick GX2 medium power rods with the Shimano Sienna 4000s. I'm running the Whisker Seeker Hog Seekers medium heavy power with the Daiwa BG. I'm running the Big Cat Fevers medium heavy power with the Penn Battle 3s. I'm running the medium heavy Hellcats with the Daiwa BG MQs, and I'm running the heavy Hellcats with the Penn Battle 4s. 6,000, 6,000, 6,000, 5,000, that's just about the same size as a 6,000, and then a 4,000. That's what we got. That's what we're running. This is the end of the part 3 video. Like I said, I wanted to use this time on this video to show you guys what I'm currently running and why I'm running it, and you know, what I'm using this stuff for. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I've enjoyed making it for you. If you have any kinds of questions about any of this equipment, you know, where I'm buying my stuff, what, you know, pricing, you know, I've given you guys a lot of details about that already, but you know, feel free to shoot me any questions, any comments. You know, hit that like button, subscribe to my channels. I'll be posting this video on YouTube and TikTok both at River City Outdoors 85, and then I'll be making some, you know, shorts for you guys for Instagram at River City Outdoors 85 also. Well, thank you guys for your time. Thanks for watching my videos, and again, I hope you enjoy my content. I'm going to be having some fishing videos coming up real quick, because we're going to be doing a bunch of fishing this weekend. I'll look forward to posting some of that stuff up for you guys as well. You guys have a great day. Thank you.